Our next guest is one of the original founders of Tuesday Funk, which she enjoyed co-hosting until 2010, when, on the verge of having a baby, she wisely passed the torch to William Shun, who passed the torch to her. A two-time graduate of the University of Chicago, she enjoys contributing to academic books, journals, and conferences for fun, though she's not technically an academic. On the more creative side of things, her short play Sunrise, Ardmore Beach was produced this summer as part of the Something Marvelous Festival of Magical Realism. Currently, she is working on a series of nonfiction essays about her family. Please welcome Hallie Paladino.
Is this good? Thank you, Eden and Andrew, for having me back. It feels so great to be back here at Tuesday Funk, and I'm really, really proud of all the work that you guys have done to keep the series going. So, anyway, my piece is called Twinkle, Twinkle, Traffic Light. Twinkle, twinkle, traffic light, standing on the corner bright. It's circle time at my three-year-old son's preschool co-op, housed in the cheerful auditorium of the Red Brick Lutheran Church on Elmdale. 24 toddlers sit crisscross applesauce singing about a traffic light? Did I hear that right? When it's green, it's time to go. When it's red, it's stop, you know. But there's no mystery, no diamond-like beauty in a traffic light. Life-saving, yes, dependable to be sure, but a traffic light does not inspire wonder. As with many innovations that are masterfully designed, the most remarkable thing about the traffic light is not that it seems extraordinary, but that it seems, at least from our vantage point, somehow inevitable. Automatic, ubiquitous, the traffic light unites with its cousin the street lamp to perpetually illuminate the urban night. An elegant solution to a vexing problem, the three-signal traffic light was dreamed up in 1923 by businessman and newspaper publisher Garrett Morgan, the son of former slaves and the first black man in Cleveland to own a car. Morgan realized that drivers needed to be warned that it was time to slow down when he witnessed a horrible collision at an intersection. Brilliant, right? But I bet he'd be as surprised as I was to hear a group of 21st century children raise their voices in an off-key love song to this blinking urban utility. Then again, I'm guessing that most of the kids in this classroom, including my own, have never actually seen a starry sky. And why sing about stars when all you know are traffic lights? Watching the children file into the snack room to claim their Dixie cups of goldfish, I wonder how this substitution of electric light for starlight, more broadly how the absence of visual evidence that the universe is a vast and mysterious place, will impact their developing imaginations. In our urban environment, man seems as inevitable as that corner traffic light. But to an individual regarding the stars, man seems the most unlikely possible miracle. How I wonder what you are is no idle question, but rather the root of some of our most active and constructive questions, from is there a God to are there Earth-like planets and other solar systems, a far cry from can I turn left here? I doubt even the forward-thinking Morgan could have foreseen back in 1923 that before the end of the century, his invention, sold for a song to General Electric, would join forces with house lights and headlights to block out the twinkling stars, taking the cosmos out of the cosmopolitan experience for city dwellers around the world. He did live long enough, however, to see them multiply along with automobiles, airplanes, and spacecraft. He died in 1963, just as the industrial age was giving way to the space age, man's race to the stars, ushering in our own era of GPS and 4G. 3 days ago, astronomers discovered another Earth-like planet, this one a mere 21 light years away. But just as technology is inching us closer to glimpsing the distant worlds beyond our own, the stars have become invisible to many of us here on Earth. 8 out of 10 children born in the United States today will never live in a place where they can see the Milky Way. Beyond the aesthetic and spiritual implications of this shift, this end of night is causing measurable ecological damage and is proving harmful to human health in a variety of ways we're only just beginning to understand. Dark nights, as it turns out, are an essential natural resource that we are eradicating at our own peril. A half-forgotten snippet of poetry starts to loop in my brain. I find it in Carl Sandburg's Smoke and Steel, 1920. Gather the stars if you wish it so. Gather the songs and keep them. The poem ends with the lines, Let the stars and songs go. Let the faces and years go. Loosen your hands and say goodbye. Have we as a human race done just this? Gathered the stars and let them go, not through death, as Sandberg imagines it here, but through the smoky march of urbanization that his volume so disquietly, so wrenchingly documents. Drawn deeper into Smoke and Steel's tale of Midwestern industrialization, I pick up another strand of the story, a snapshot from the moment before Morgan brought us his traffic light. In People Who Must, the narrator is painting on the roof of a skyscraper. Below, a crowded street. The traffic cop's whistle never let up all afternoon. So, before the traffic light, there was a man standing in the intersection, as Sandberg puts it, keeping the street. Now we send satellites into orbit to manage our travels, conveniently reporting back to our smartphones on all of the gridlock. By the time my son is grown, they say that cars will drive themselves, and if that's the case, perhaps that old relic, standing on the corner bright, will be nothing but a half-remembered snippet of verse repeated in childhood, forgotten like Sandberg's man in blue and brass whistling in the intersection, irrelevant as the shifting constellations that guided ancient travelers round our spinning earth. In the meantime, romantic holdout that I am, I'll keep singing about the stars to a child who won't be satisfied with twinkling traffic lights. Patiently, he squints into the murky Chicago sky. Mama, look, a shooting star. But it's not a shooting star. Just a blinking signal on a satellite, a near-away light bulb. To see the stars in the city, we must head indoors. On his 4th birthday, I take my son to the Adler Planetarium. We hand over our tickets and settle into reclining seats for a daytime peek at the night sky, conveniently projected onto the ceiling as well-amplified experts identify Orion's belt with their nifty laser pointers. This is, we are told, exactly how the Chicago sky would look at this time of year if it were actually visible. The irony is lost on my son, who accepts this state of affairs with a shrug. It is not lost on the people who run the planetarium and have posted notices educating visitors about the negative impact of light pollution, complete with mock-ups of how our skylight might look against a modestly starrier backdrop if we could only just dim the lights. In reality, the mayor's office is soliciting proposals to create vast corridors of light uniting the city's main tourist attractions in an homage to an idealized Parisian city of light. This is sadly amusing, since the real Paris has recently passed a law requiring lights to be turned off late at night in an effort to save electricity and restore some of nighttime's romantic je ne sais quoi. As the house lights come up on our 25 minutes of computer-enabled stargazing, I'm disheartened. Luckily, I can't dwell on this too much because of the huge smile on my son's face. That night, as he lovingly adorns his bedroom wall with glow-in-the-dark constellation stickers, he declares that the planetarium is his favorite place in the world. For the moment, he is satisfied. I am not. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. If you had asked me as a child about my favorite place in the world, I would have said outside, laying in the grass looking up at the stars. This is because when I was 10 years old, my father moved our family from an apartment in Manhattan to an isolated cattle ranch in the Rocky Mountains. On clear nights, the sky there is spectacular. When there's a new moon, the zodiac glows brilliantly. In winter, we can see the ghostly flickers of the northern lights, and when the moon is full, its reflection on the river is so bright that it looks like someone poured liquid silver across the landscape. 80 miles from any sizable town, my father's home is located in one of the last corners of America that ranks a 1 out of 9 on the Bortle Dark Sky Index, meaning that you can see the cosmos there the way it used to be seen by everybody, everywhere. It was a magical place to grow up. Also, incredibly isolating. But because I knew how privileged I was to be there, it took me a long time to admit to myself that, in spite of my love of mountain scenery and starry skies, the truth is, I feel as trapped and restless living in the country as my father did in Manhattan. My parents escaped the city to give us a healthier childhood, to make sure we understood that the world is bigger than the city, To my father, we urban dwellers are disconnected from the natural world found outside our city limits, and for that, our souls must surely be impoverished. Internalizing his point of view, I have long felt ashamed of my rejection of country life, as if somehow choosing life in a man-made environment over a natural one is a moral failing. In the country, I feel connected to something eternal, but here in the city, I feel connected to something deliciously ephemeral. This, combined with the cultural amenities of Chicago, ultimately tempted me away from my parents' pastoral existence. Still, I wonder about the implications of choosing an urban upbringing for my own children. The defining aspect of an urban childhood is that it is a childhood spent in built environments. There is the playground, plastic and metal over thick rubber matting, the park, a carefully landscaped swath of green offsetting the buildings that surround it. What's outdoors in the city is as urban as what is indoors. In this context, nature becomes another subject to study rather than to engage with or experience. No place is this more evident than at our city's beloved rainy day destination, the Natural History Museum, a great stone building where children can visit vintage taxidermy zebras, frozen in time against a faded African backdrop, giving the impression, perhaps, that nature itself is, well, history. No wonder, then, that as I kiss my precious dreamers on their cheeks, draw the blinds against that awful orange glow, against a soundscape of insistent sirens, I sometimes fear that I've thrown away my father's gift, the gift of a life lived in tune with nature, a gift that has informed so richly the person that I've grown up to be by bringing up his grandchildren in the land of traffic lights. And then, just as I'm wondering if the city will be a spirit-crushing place for a child who, just like his grandfather, is so powerfully drawn to the natural world, suddenly it's spring, and a family of bunny rabbits improbably moves into the postage stamp front yard of our six-flat condo building. A bright red cardinal builds a nest in our mulberry tree. My son collects smooth rocks and tiny shells by the lake. He flies his kite in the park and gets it tangled up in a tree. He even digs for worms. He keeps them as pets in the soil-filled flower pots. On a recent family trip back home, I step outdoors after the kids are asleep. It's a beautiful, cloudless night. The sky, a glittering dome, with everything nestled inside of it. How I wonder what you are. It's been a long day of travel, and my kids have been sleeping since before sunset. Usually, I live by the maxim, never wake a sleeping child, but tonight, I have good reason. Quietly, I tiptoe into the bedroom. I slip my arms under my sleeping son and carry him carefully outside, his head resting on my left arm, legs hinged across my right. Mama? He rubs his sleepy eyes, then opens them wide. It's all there. Jupiter with its swirling eye, Mars all rusty and red, Orion and his belt. No digital projection, this is God's great universe. I teach him starlight, star bright. I teach him to make a wish. Thank you.